Hi friends, Astrologer Joseph Anthony here, and here is your 2026 astrology overview. And this one I have titled, really I didn't give it any title, but it's basically about new beginnings and major disruptions, and I'll explain what that means. 2026 is unlike any other year that we've experienced in this lifetime. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we have outer planets that are basically going to be changing signs and basically interacting with each other throughout the entire year. And when that happens in astrology, which basically from what I gather has never really happened before like this is a major turning point in our society where, when everything starts to change, let's say in 5 years from now, we could look back at 2026 and say, this is the year it all began. That's what I'm implying here. And what do I mean? I mean that the old systems, the old ways of looking at things are basically fading out, while a new system and a new way of doing things is emerging. And we've clearly seen that in 2025. But in 2026, it's going to be very obvious. Now, obviously, many people are not going to like that. And there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of technology that comes forward. We kind of already anticipate that. So based on the astrology, remember, astrology is just a system for understanding cycles and patterns. It's a symbolic language, all right? It's still up to us to use the energy or not use the energy. Remember that, okay? As a collective, society has a choice. Unfortunately, most people in the world are living out of, self-interest and fear or concern about their well-being, and I totally understand that. But when we enter 2026 and beyond, this is a very empowering time to basically look at the world in a completely different way. And so that's what I'm trying to get across here. It's not about doom and gloom and fear. The unknown is always a little nerve-wracking and fear-based in a sense that, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. You don't need to know. You need to live your life, and you need to go in a direction that you feel that you need to go in. That's my suggestion. That's what I'm doing. That's what I suggest to anyone that wants to listen. And this is what 2026 brings upon us. So let me dive in. I've got a bunch of slides, and I've got some charts towards the middle and the end, and I'll go into all of that. And again, this will be a very general overview. Of course, I will be doing a much deeper dive in my inner circle community, so consider joining. I left the link down below. And I do believe we have some sort of special going on for the end of 2025 into the beginning of 2026. Anyway, let's dive in and let me show you what I'm talking about and why 2026 is so important, okay? So here we go. Let's start off with the numerology. And numerology is another system which is wonderful because the entire world, the entire matrix, the entire, simulation, if you will, is based on numbers. They're all mathematical equations that create a foundation for light and energy. And when we look at the year of 2026, we could clearly see this is going to be a very important year for new beginnings. Why? Because we are in a 1 year. 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10, and then you reduce that down to 1, and it's a 1 year. 1 is about the individual. 1 is about new beginnings. 1 is starting from scratch. Okay, but it's a very creative time. So keep that in mind. It's a very creative time for building something, for creating, for becoming, realizing what we are. And this is why it's important also, just the numbers, looking at the numbers. But let's go into what a numerology year of 2026 looks like. So it's about new beginnings, leadership, and innovation. Beginnings of a new 9-year cycle. 1 through 9 is the numerology, the basic numerology, and then it repeats. The cycle repeats. Individuality, self-reliance, and bold action. Yes, 1 energy is very bold because you're starting from nothing. You have to build, and so you're initiating, you're creating, you're putting the wheels in motion. It's a pioneering spirit. It's very creative. And fabrication, so taking things out of the air and putting them into a reality. You understand? So it's a time to claim your power, step out of your comfort zone and make bold moves. That's what the 1 symbolizes. Okay? So it's about the individual. As I said, this is about you as an individual, not your family, not your friends, not your community. It's about you. Okay? That's what this year represents. So you're going to find yourself throughout the year being motivated one way or another. Whether it's new projects, new endeavors, new jobs, new way of looking at the world, whatever it is, very powerful year just from the numerology alone. All right, so let's dive in a little deeper. Now, one of the big things that we are seeing as astrologers and those that understand cycles and patterns is that these two planets, Neptune and Saturn, are going to re-enter Aries. Now, this has already happened in 2025, and when they do enter it, it usually shakes things up a little bit. But these two have different energies associated with them. For instance, Neptune has to do with imagination and spirit. This has a tendency to bring things out of nowhere and make them a little confusing and foggy and unrealistic. But it's great for imagination in terms of creating. Like, for instance, many artists are influenced by heavy Neptune energy, whether they're singers or painters or writers. It doesn't matter. Neptune is very creative. Okay, so you have this energy at the end of January coming back into Aries. Now, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Remember that. It's the beginning. It's the individual. It's the self-realization. So now we have another symbol here signifying the self. Not only do we have the number 1, but we have the first sign of the zodiac is Aries. Then in February, we have Saturn returning to Aries. Now, both of these signs are going to stay in Aries. They're not going to leave Aries like they did in 2025, where they retrograded back out into Pisces. So this is going to be on February the 13th. These two will be very closely aligned. As a matter of fact, they will conjunct on February the 20th. Now, Saturn has a totally different energy. Saturn is about restriction. Saturn is about limitation. Saturn is about karma. Saturn is about building structures. This is the old world, you see? And Neptune has a tendency to dissolve. So now, what is it suggesting? Neptune teaming up with Saturn is suggesting we are going to dissolve part of the old world while we build new structures. You get what I'm saying here? It's a slow evolution process. And so we astrologers, or myself, see significant changes occurring in January, towards the end of January, and into February. February is a huge month of change. And I have more slides for February because there's a lot of activity in February. But the end of January, as these alignments start to get closer, okay, this is where we see significant changes taking place in society. It could be anything, and I'm just going to throw a few things out there for you because we're talking about the symbolism of Aries. What does Aries represent besides the self? It represents military. It represents policing. It represents sort of a drive to accomplish, to achieve, to put forth energy. And Aries is a fiery energy, get up and go sign. So I'm expecting in January into February, Saturn represents things like government and restrictions, or any entity that controls, limitations. So what I'm expecting here at the end of January, maybe the middle of January, end of January, into September, is some sort of heavy-handed, military stuff going on, police stuff going on, government issues coming to the forefront. Could be anything, let's say, I'm just tossing it out there, things like arrests or indictments, exposure of political leaders around the world that have been literally, controlling their people and being greedy. I'm expecting that to be revealed as well. Whatever it is, it's going to be right in the front of us, right front and center, because the energy is so strong. All right. So I'm not going to give you any specifics on that, of what exactly I see. Oh, this individual doing that. I'm giving you a general overview right now to give you an idea what kind of energy we're dealing with. In our personal lives, wherever this alignment occurs in that area of your chart, it's like a shock to the system and says, hey, I need to change this. I need to let go of something that's not working anymore. I need to build something new, a new way of doing things. And that's what this energy is going to do as these two planets stay together for a good part of the first, I would say the first 4 to 6 months of the year. They're going to be in close proximity to each other, which means they'll still be influencing us. Okay? And so this is the energy that we're already starting to see here. So we know something's building, something's starting, but yet at the same time, something's crumbling away, and new structures and new foundations are going to be revealing themselves. But in the meantime, there could be this strict, which is Saturn, strict limitation or change in some way. Or here's another possibility, because Saturn is associated with karma. And if you understand what karma is, it's the effort you put in and the reward you get from it. In other words, cause and effect. And this could be issues from the past related to political theater or the criminal banking system or the powers that shouldn't be being brought to justice in some way. In other words, people realizing, oh my God, wow, these groups and organizations and these people that have been controlling society have been basically influencing us, and we bought into it. That's what I'm talking about, and being revealed. And so things like that will show up as well. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So these 2 months right away, the middle of January into February, you could see that we have some tremendous movement of energy here. Now, there's more. On February the 17th, we have a solar eclipse in Aquarius. Aquarius, the sign of humanity, the sign of technology, the sign of innovation, the sign of the future. This is a sign that does not like doing things ordinarily. It likes to shake things up. It likes to throw a monkey wrench into things. It likes to bring in surprises. So you could see here how February is another month where we have possibilities of shock to the system, or, some sort of information that comes out of nowhere that surprises the hell out of everyone. That's the energy of Uranus or Aquarius, which rules, Uranus rules Aquarius. So this is the kind of energy that's setting the tone for the year, because eclipses can last up to a year to manifest themselves. All right. So this one in February is like surprising. It's like innovation. It's about showing you what the hell's going on. And this is going to be very interesting because it will be squaring its ruler, Uranus, in Taurus. So we are going to be in for some major surprises in February, having to do with either power structures, having to do with financial matters, the political theater, or there even is that possibility, because Taurus is an earth sign, earth disruptions like volcanoes, earthquakes, a little bit more than normal. There is that possibility here. There's so much energy building up here in February. So I'm putting that out there for you. Okay? What does that mean in our personal lives? Wherever this solar eclipse hits in your chart, you want to look at that area and say, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to look forward to? How do I need to reinvent myself? How do I fit into society? How's my community? Am I making a difference? Can I help my community more? Because Aquarius is very community-minded. You follow? And of course, technology. This is a very technical, left brain, let's figure things out, calculate, everything out. So this is going to be a very important solar eclipse that sets the stage for the next 6 months to a year as well. Okay, so there's February. But also in February, we have that conjunction on the 20th. Now, this is going to be at 0 degrees of Aries. Again, the first sign of the zodiac at a 0 degree point, which means a new beginning. It symbolically represents that, okay, from an astrological standpoint. But this doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but you could see how this energy is building up. First, you have the Saturn entering Aries. Then you have on the 17th, the solar eclipse. Then we have on the 20th the exact conjunction between these two planets, which signifies a change, an innovation, the old guard changing, needing to change. But the thing about Saturn and Neptune together, they actually work well together. They offset each other. Saturn restricts the imagination and fantasy-prone illusion of Neptune. And Neptune brings in imagination and creativity to the stodgy, Saturn archetype of strict, orderly control. You see? So it's actually a good thing. But so on the 20th, and by the way, this is not just on that day, but we're seeing something very important happening here. A transformation, an announcement, something dissolving, coming to a realization, understanding that we need to build something new. And this goes for our personal lives as well. So again, wherever Aries is in your chart, and this hits at 0 degrees of Aries in your chart, you want to pay attention to that area, because that's the area that's being revolutionized. And Aries represents the self, so everyone's going to feel it. Especially if you're in Aries, Aries rising, Aries moon, you will feel it even more. Okay, like I have to reinvent myself. I need to start something new. I need to change my appearance. That's not working for me anymore. I got to go on and move on and do something else. So this is the kind of energy we're dealing with here, just in February, in February alone. But there's more. There's a whole lot more this year. Now let's get to the retrogrades, because the first one is also going to occur about 6 days after that conjunction. As you can see here, February the 26th through March the 20th. Mercury will retrograde in Pisces. Pisces is associated with Neptune, okay? But Mercury in Pisces does not do too well, because Mercury wants to think in terms of processing information, and Pisces is imagination. And it doesn't necessarily work well, especially when it's in retrograde mode. So this first retrograde is going to be a confusing time. It's going to be bringing us back to the past and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. What's happening to me? Why do I feel so strange? Why is my imagination running away with me? Why am I seeing through things? Why is my intuition so strong but yet confusing? This is the kind of energy we're dealing with here. So you could see how February right away, it's like a 1-2 punch coming in and changing things in our perception. All right. But this goes all the way through March the 20th, all through the sign of Pisces, when the sun is in Pisces. Here are the other ones to keep track of. June 29th through July the 23rd, Mercury will retrograde in Cancer. And this is going to be very important as well, because we have a lot going on in July as well. So we have retrogrades during 2 very pivotal months. And then a third retrograde is going to be in Scorpio, October 24th to November 13th. And there's another major event taking place in October when Venus goes retrograde in Scorpio. So we have, 2 retrogrades going on simultaneously in October and November. So we look at that and go, oh, okay, that's another month we need to take a look at. So again, I'm giving you time frames, friends. I'm giving you ideas of what the energy is going to be doing. But again, it's still up to you how to handle that energy. So we have all of this powerful energy just at the first couple of months of the year. But also I want to make note of March, because in March, before we get to March, we have this alignment. Mars in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. This is also a bit of a volatile time as well, right after the Mercury retrograde, the 27th. This is a little bit turbulent. This is confusing. This is irritation. This is about society. We're going to see more people protesting and people, losing their sense of reality at this time. And again, if you're not centered and you don't understand what's going on, there are people that have a tendency to just overreact. And absolutely, Mars squaring Uranus is about overreacting. And we will find that. Those of us that are more centered and understand what's happening, we may have some revelations and awarenesses that come in out of nowhere. There could be some surprises with technology, also having to do with financial matters, because Uranus will still be in Taurus, the sign of money. So we have a lot of surprises at the end of February, having to do with society, financial matters, maybe even some friction in the markets, and sudden awarenesses, and possibly, people losing their marbles and protesting and rioting and stuff like that in some of the major cities. We already saw it in 2025 and before that, but now it may escalate even more, because we have the confusion, the need for action, and now these energies coming in to disrupt everything even more. Then when we get to March, we have the first lunar eclipse, and it's in Virgo, the sign of health, the sign of well-being, daily responsibility. But Virgo energy is very nervous-oriented. It rules the nervous system, and it tends to overanalyze everything. So right away, as we start off March, we are analyzing what the hell is going on. Why are things changing so rapidly? Why is this happening, and why is that happening? There's something wrong. We may be overanalyzing everything to death. Let's put it that way. Okay, but it is a realization. Lunar eclipses bring deep realizations about our reality on a personal level and a societal level. But the good thing about the Virgo energy is it's very smart and it could get to understand things at a deeper level. So this lunar eclipse brings understanding. It brings this understanding of who am I? What do I need to change? Am I taking care of myself physically enough? Am I eating properly? Am I exercising enough? How is it? How's the world around me? How am I treating myself? How are other people around me? So there's going to be a lot of questioning here about your daily routine as well. How you're interacting with others. How's your job? Virgo is all about work. It's about cleanliness. It's about perfection. And with the lunar eclipse, basically lunar eclipses are about endings. And so we're coming to an understanding that the old ways of doing things on a personal level and on a societal level is transforming or ending in some way. Now, because this is the sign of health, it would not surprise me that there's another scare event about a disease or a virus or something along those lines. That would not surprise me. Of course, they've been pushing for that for years. Just think of 2020 and that whole scamdemic. So anyway, this is what I'm suggesting here. This is a time where we are reflecting and trying to understand and grasp, especially since Mercury is going to be retrograde in Pisces. It may be a confusing time as these transitions are occurring in our personal lives and in society. Okay, so keep that in mind. But when we get to the 21st, the sun enters Aries and the first sign of the zodiac. And this is all about initiating action once again. And of course, Mercury will start coming out of retrograde at that time too. But there is this amazing alignment that we astrologers are all scratching our heads going, wow. We have what's called a stellium. That's 6 planets in one sign, 7 if you count Chiron. And this is all about the 15th. I would say either from the 13th, 14th, and 15th through the 19th, as these planets will be making their way through Aries. Again, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And this is all about initiating action. This is all about looking at the self. Aries represents the self. Looking at the self and going, what do we need to change? What do I need to change? This is very empowering. This is that pioneering spirit. This is that energy from the number 1 here, building and building and building. And so I'm expecting something big around this time in terms of realization, in terms of action. In other words, there could be mass protests or marches around the world saying, hey, stop controlling us. This is who we are. We want our government to be more, equitable. We want it to be more this way and that way. It's very possible, friends. And, Aries, again, does represent military. It does represent police. It does represent, challenges. Aries is a sign. Not only is it about the self, but it's also about liking conflict. And I'm not saying there's going to be major conflict. There is that possibility here, friends. I'm not going to lie to you. But more importantly, it has to do with the self-realization, self-empowerment. Realizing who you really are, as I say in all my videos, which I've come to understand over the past 40 years of studying human nature, is we are basically spiritual beings in these physical containers, having a human experience as John Doe, Mary, Pete, Frank, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you're having this experience from a deeper spiritual perspective. Okay? You need to come to that realization like I have so many years ago. And so this is what I'm suggesting here. But this is a very big turning point in April. It's about action. It's about, moving forward, having the pioneering spirit and having the courage to go after your dreams or your visions or your desires without the fear. Just try it and see what happens. Remember, all we're here to do in this reality, this third dimensional reality, is to make choices and have experiences based on those choices. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great, but you learn something from it. That's what this reality is about. Okay? So anyway, this is a major turning point. Here's that stellium I was talking about, just to give you an idea. The moon is also transiting at that time. We have Mercury, Neptune, Mars, Saturn, the Sun, and Chiron, all in the sign of Aries. So this is a very strong, pioneering energy that we need to somehow come to some sort of realization towards. Now, what also happens, May, a little quieter month, not a whole lot going on there. There could be some financial concerns, but May usually is a time where we slow down and take it easy and enjoy the spring flowers, so to speak. But when we get to, before we get to that, we have April, that, the rest of April that we need to deal with here, which is Uranus going back into Gemini on the 25th. So here is another indicator of massive change to our thinking and our communication. And of course, this has a lot to do with technology. Uranus is all about innovation. It loves to do things in a new way. And Gemini is all about communication. So this is where things start to move forward at a faster pace. Our communication, our thinking, self-expression, ideas, premonitions, maybe even more lack of sleep because our minds will be super overloaded with information. And again, you could see how the stellium going into this energy in April is so significant. And so people are going to speak out. People are going to exchange ideas even more. Technology is going to advance. It wouldn't surprise me we start seeing holographic technology being implemented, even more so than it already exists. So this is all part of the Uranus entering Gemini. Especially if you're a Gemini, Gemini rising, Gemini moon, you're basically going to have a match lit under you to motivate your mind and self-expression. And so this is us accessing more of the matrix, seeing it for what it is, that it's a field of consciousness, of possibilities, and information will just start pouring out over and over again. Okay, so this is going to be very important. And this will be over the next 7 years. Uranus is not going back into Taurus. It's going to stay in Gemini the next 7 years. Now, here's a little bit of a recap, at least for the first 2 months here, how important this is. First, we have Neptune moving into Aries. February the 13th, Saturn moves into Aries. Then we have the solar eclipse in Aquarius. February the 20th, Saturn conjuncts Neptune in Aries. And Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces right there. So you can see the first 2 months, very pivotal. And then we have this square that's a bit volatile right there. So the first 2 months of 2026 are very, very important. But that, as we go into March, we had that eclipse of realization. But then we have, when we go to April, more significant energy comes in with that stellium and Uranus entering Gemini. So you can see here, this is going to be just an amazing first few months. As we start off 2026, the energy is just going to hit us. Boom, 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 boom. And so this means anything from change or realization or initiating new projects and events. That's what we're entering. Okay. So as I said, May is not as big or important. May and June. But when we get into the end of June, all right, we have another major turning point. Jupiter enters Leo for the first time in 12 years. Jupiter in Leo is all about creativity. It is all about self-expression. It is all about having fun. It is all about children. Leo is associated with children as well, just as Cancer is. But this is empowering. Jupiter in Leo is very empowering. It's very driven. It wants to accomplish. It wants to be seen. It wants to be heard. Leo is associated with the sun. So maybe we'll have some more solar activity like we've been having in 2024. I think we're still in solar maximum at that point, or we're starting to come out of it. But anyway, this is very important because Jupiter expands everything it touches. And Leo is about creativity. It is about, sometimes it can be about the ego and being selfish. So we need to be careful about that. But it's about being seen and heard. It's dramatic. And so this, over the course of the next year, for about June, July of 2027, this Leo will be in effect. But the thing about this Leo is that this Jupiter in Leo is it's going to make some amazing aspects to these outer planets. This is what really changes the dynamics of 2026 from an astrological standpoint. We have not seen alignments like this before, all in 1 month. And this is all happening in July. So July is another major turning point. And some of this energy is very positive. Like sextiles in astrology is 60 degrees away. They're positive. Trines are very positive. They're 120 degrees apart. Now, you'll notice there's one in yellow here that I have to point out, of course, and I'll get to that. But here we see Uranus, the planet of innovation and change, in Gemini, communication, sextiling Neptune and Aries. There's new technology or innovation or realization that's occurring in July. Big time. And maybe they're going to be pushing the AI stuff even more, or new technology like the holographic stuff, all forms of communication. This also means spiritual communication, like getting messages from, dead relatives, or having premonitions about the future. This is very common, friends. Everyone has this ability. They just don't listen to it or understand it. Again, around the 18th, we have the same Uranus in Gemini. This time it trines powerful Pluto in Aquarius. Major innovation to society or technology advancements of some kind. Now, I'm not saying this is good or bad, but they generally lean towards the positive when we're looking at sextiles and trines. But again, it depends on humanity. Do we want to have a new technological era, that changes everything? Everything this year is about advancement in some way. Technological, spiritual, societal, all of it. And so there's no turning back. We can't go back to rotary phones or something like that. We can't go back to the 1930s. This year is a turning point. And so everything is about forward momentum, including self-realization. Again, we're talking about Aries energy. But around the 20th, as you can see here, Jupiter in Leo trines Neptune, which is great for imagination and creativity and premonitions. So I'm going to say that this is one of the best times to meditate. July, about who you are, or receive messages in your spirit or your dreams. This is going to be profound. I'll be doing a lot of meditation around this time myself. Now, but Jupiter will also be opposing powerful Pluto. This is a tug of war of power. Jupiter is very powerful because it's large and it pulls on the gravitational field. And Pluto is the great destroyer, the great transformer in Aquarius society. So here we see something happening here. We're at a crossroads. Maybe new technology is being innovated, like the digital ID crap, and and people just rejecting it. It's very possible here happening in July. People are like, nope, we don't want that. Nope. And so we have this friction going on here. Okay, so again, society is at a crossroads. But then we have this Jupiter sextiling Uranus. Almost as if, okay, we'll change the system, make it a little easier, and, we won't be as controlling. Something positive. Neptune also in Aries sextiles Pluto. Again, society coming to terms, understanding. By the way, all of this stuff this year, there could be communication with, let's just say, extraterrestrials. I saw it coming in 2027, but there is that possibility in 2026 that, that's going to be more important. Maybe there'll be major disclosure. Real disclosure, where the crafts are revealed and maybe beings that don't look like us are, brought to the forefront. But then again, friends, we're entering such a technological age, we don't even know if it's real anymore. They could all be AI. So this is what I'm talking about here, friends. But there's a lot of positive energy in July for significant changes in your personal life. You'll notice, all right, it's time for change, time to do something different, time to change, everything around me. And that's the kind of energy we're dealing with here. Then when we look at the bottom here, July 27th, the north node of the moon will go into Aquarius, humanity, society, technology, the future, and the south node, which is always in the opposite direction, will be in Leo. So this is very significant. This points a direction for the next 18 months of what we're going towards. And this is Aquarius. Technology, innovation, community, understanding things at a different level, change of direction, sudden surprises. This is all under this north node in Aquarius. While we begin to change the old structure, the old power structure, the leaders, all of that stuff is changing. Okay? On a personal level, it's you bringing in more innovation and understanding at a larger level while letting go of the old ways of doing things. That's how I would interpret this. So you could see that July is going to be another significant month of change. Here is the first year. I've got some charts here to show you. There's Uranus in Gemini, exactly sextiling Neptune. This is a very creative, powerful energy, extremely psychic, innovative on many different levels. Okay, so keep that in mind. Here's the Uranus sextile Pluto. Again, extreme creativity, realization, psychic ability, change to society, change to your own personal life, the way you think, the way you understand things. This is where I think a lot of people's belief system is going to go out the window, especially having to do with things like religion or how society really works or how government works. It's like everything's going to be revealed. It's going to be shown to us and understanding on a deep level. Like, wow, I believed in that nonsense all my life. Yeah, that's how it works. With all these outer planets, and air signs and fire signs. It's about action and it's about thought, but it's about initiating new things. Here is the Jupiter trine. Again, so creative, such creative energy here. On a personal level, this could be amazing insights in your own daily life. This is not just societal, but they do represent that. The outer planets are slower moving and they do influence society as a whole. It depends on what you do with it. But this is major awareness, okay? Major creativity. Jupiter's in Leo, the sign of creativity. Neptune's very creative in Aries, very creative, okay? And we also see here, there's a lot of other stuff going on here that I didn't point out. Jupiter's also making an alignment to Uranus. Uranus is making an alignment to Neptune. Neptune's making an alignment to Pluto. And there's the opposition. But they're all making alignments. These two powerhouses are making alignments to Neptune, Uranus, and, they're all making the same alignments to each other. So it's almost like a battle for change here. Jupiter wants it one way, Pluto wants it another. And so we'll see some significant changes around this time because there's positive energy here and there's a need to transform. Here's the other ones, Jupiter sextiling Uranus. Very innovative technology about communication, ideas, premonitions. My God, the psychic ability around July is off the charts. So pay attention. Do a little meditation. Just ask. Ask your higher consciousness. Just ask a simple question like I do. Universe, higher consciousness, show me what's important to me. Bring me that information. And then let it go and let it come to you. Don't think about it. Don't put any fear in it. Don't say, oh, God, please help me. No. Just ask a simple question and you will get the answer. That's how it works. This is very powerful energy for change. Here's the other one, Neptune and Pluto. This is about dissolving. By the 25th, something is dissolving or changing and morphing into something else. This is about society. This is about the self. This is about realization, big time realization. And so we're going to see that. We also see the sun getting involved now because it's switched signs into Leo and we'll be having that conjunction. This is I feel like a very happy time. Sun conjunct Jupiter is very optimistic. And with these two outer planets here going, yeah, major change. We'll have to deal with it. And I'm going to take back my power and move forward. That's what I'm suggesting here. Okay, so we have amazing, tremendous amounts of opportunities here. Just note the dates when you see these significant events happening in your life. Now, on the 31st, there is what we call a little mini triangle between Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Very powerful. Here is that little triangle, the mini triangle. Again, tremendous amounts of opportunity here, friends. They're all at 4 degrees. So if you knew your chart and you saw this overlay, you would say, oh my God, wow, that is wonderful. This is about innovation, dissolving old belief systems and transforming something in society. This is very powerful energy, friends. This is why the astrologers that know this stuff are scratching our heads going, holy crap, wow, we've never seen stuff like this. We've never seen so many alignments in 1 month like this with the outer planets in these signs. Okay? And it's just like, we're like, my God, this is such a major reset of society. And we're like, yep. And so I'm showing you how these resets are formulating. And it does have to do with communication. It does have to do with society. And it does have to do with the individual. So it's about thinking. It's about innovation, technology. It's about realization. And I'm hoping many of you get deeper and deeper, like I have and many others, to realize that we are just basically energy beings in this hologram, in this holosphere. Okay? and that we're having experiences, and you come to realize that, and you begin to make better choices, because better choices give you better experiences. Anyway, here is the same mini triangle, which is going to repeat itself in 2027. So we're not, this is not just a 1-year thing. It repeats itself again, but this time it does it at a different degree. Same planets, same signs, different ones. So we have more innovation coming in 2027. Now, but 2027 is very special for the United States. 2027 is when we have the Uranus return. And there's the exact date, friends. July 27, 2027. Right there. This, and I've talked about this in previous videos, of how every time Uranus has come back to its return, we've had revolution. From the beginning of the country to the wars, to the Civil War, to World War II. Every time this is... Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but the indicators are there. But this could be a peaceful revolution. That's what I'm getting at. This could be where we literally unshackle ourselves from belief systems and governments and religions and all the stupidity that we buy into. And we basically free ourselves from these shackles, especially here in the United States. I think we're going to have some major changes coming to the United States in the political theater, power structures. I think the states will continue to be breaking away and seceding from the federal government in some way. And that's what I see, friends. And it's already started. And so we'll see how it goes. But I'm just giving you a heads up on 2027 in July, how significant the country's going to look from 2026 to 2027. That's how important these astrology symbols or cycles reveal themselves to us, and how important they're going to be. Now, let's get back to the astrology of 2026. There's another wonderful alignment occurring. There's a solar eclipse, the second one of the year, which is going to be in the sign of Leo, right here. Very powerful, very creative energy and force coming in. This is like a rebirth again, and Leo's very optimistic. Leo's energy is very optimistic. So we could have some more optimism about the future, about our creativity, about our family. There's a lot of that. Leo also represents love. So maybe we feel more loving at this point. You see, more creative. As the old world is crumbling, the new world is like, hey, this is great, wonderful. Maybe there's some powerful energy coming in onto the earth at this time, kind of waking us up even more. So, but at the end of the month of August, we have another lunar eclipse. Usually they happen every 2 weeks. First you have the new moon, and then 2 weeks later you have the full moon. And here we have the lunar eclipse, this time in the sign of Pisces. Now, this is why I say many of us, many folks that are religious are going to start losing their religion. And by the way, I predicted this was going to happen in our lifetime, where many people are going to just leave religions because they're based on manipulation and control and, mistruths and half-truths and stories that are made up and so on and so forth. And so many people are going to come to that realization. I was believing in this stuff that, was made up by man, and it's not true. There's a kernel of truth in some of this stuff, but it's not my belief system. It's not what I need anymore. So the lunar eclipse in Pisces is about the illusions and fantasies that we've believed in. It's dissolving old beliefs. It's dissolving things in society. It's dissolving. It's like the veil is very foggy and murky, but yet it's dissolving. It's like a fog. It's like a mist. And this is also about spirituality. Pisces is the doorway to these other realms of consciousness. And so this is about profound realizations that we need to let go of that no longer work for us. So, on the one hand, we have the solar eclipse that's bringing in new things, new opportunities, new ways of doing things. But at the same time, the lunar eclipses always bring realization and possibly endings to different scenarios or ideas or concepts. So we see something here of a door closing on an old system or belief or idea that's not working anymore. That's what I'm seeing here. And so this could be very important around this time. All right. Now, just let me touch upon September. September, there's one major alignment that I would be a little bit aware of, and that's September the 1st, where we have Mars in Cancer squaring Saturn in Aries, another friction-oriented alignment, just like on February 27th. this time in different signs. So there could be some disruption around this time frame from the lunar eclipse to September the 1st, again with society, but possibly even involving water, because Pisces is a water sign. And this disruption, Mars in Cancer, Cancer is a water sign. So there could be some disruptions, having to do with water systems, weather anomalies, strange waves, storms, stuff like that, hurricanes. So keep an eye out for that. They could be pretty big or important around this time, which is natural. These are natural occurrences. So, but they could be very significant is what I'm getting at. So that's what September looks like. Going into the second half of September, the sun goes through Libra. We're back to trying to find balance within ourselves. But then there's something going on. There's a slowdown. As we get into October, Venus goes retrograde in Scorpio. Now, this is important for relationships, financial matters. Venus is about partnerships, yes. Venus represents values. It represents the material side of life. It represents beauty. And it is financial in nature because it rules over Taurus. And Scorpio is the other sign that is associated with finance and money. So I'm expecting in the fall some major slowdown either to the economy or some new system that they've tried to implement, whether it's the AI system or new banking regulations that control society even more. This could be a very confusing time for not just personal relationships, but also the financial system. Markets could crash, markets could change, markets could, just make no sense at the time as we kind of go to a new system, it looks like, to a new way of exchanging value, because that's all money is, an exchange of value. But unfortunately, it's being manipulated and controlled, and we know that. And so this is the time frame, October the 3rd through November the 13th. Now remember that Mercury will be retrograde also from October the 24th through November the 13th, adding more confusion into the mix. So this, to me, is a very important time of the year where significant changes will try to be implemented, but there could be a lot of confusion in the mix. And this could be something to do with relationships also. Again, Venus is about relationships. So it could be anything from personal relationships to work relationships to societal relationships. We might see a lot of conflict in this time frame because of this Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde at the same time. That absolutely causes confusion. So I would not be buying anything around this period, any large ticket items like cars or houses or anything like that. Not a great time for that. But again, so much change that's happening in 2026. And wherever this Scorpio energy is for you guys, you need to pay attention to that. It will dip into Libra also. So once again, we're going back to relationships, balance, fairness. There could also be a lot of legal issues around this time, depending on indictments and arrests or stuff like that occurs in the news. That could be also. People will definitely feel restless at this time as well. Okay, so I'm just giving you guys a heads up so you know the time frame here. But then there's something amazing that happens right after all that stuff ends, after the retrogrades end. November the 15th, there is a powerful conjunction between Mars and Jupiter in Leo, the lion. And this is all about action. This is about assertion. This is about aggression. This is absolutely a powerhouse alignment. Mars is about aggression and action. Jupiter is about expanding, and Leo is about creativity and being brave enough to move forward and to take action in your own personal life. Like taking the reins and going, I'm not going to do this the same way anymore. I'm going to do this, this, and this. I want to do this and this. Unfortunately, that same energy is going to affect society as a whole. Those that want to rebel and protest and, kind of lose their shit. So that is that possibility as well. We'll see that. But this is a wonderful, creative time to initiate and create whatever you want, at the end of in the middle of November, actually. So this is a very strong alignment that you could take advantage of as well. And as we finish off the year, I didn't see too many major alignments to be concerned about, so I didn't include them in this video. But you could see what I've been trying to show you here. Very powerful year for change. This is a new beginning. This is a set point where things begin to change in the world over the next couple of years. And this is the year that initiates all that change. It's up to us how we want to deal with it, on a personal level and a societal level. So keep that in mind. Anyway, if you want to know more, please sign up for my free newsletter, either here at astrologerjoe.com. You could sign up by clicking on the link here. I did write the astrology on my websites. You can get your free moon reading. There's a mini moon reading, and if you decide to buy the whole thing, you help support us a little bit. It's a third-party app. But you could read my 2026 astrology overview at planetswithin.com. You'll see it under the blog section, excuse me. And so I write the newsletter every month, so you could see it there. So you could sign up at astrologerjoe.com. You'll get it directly in your mail, your email. You could sign up here too. It'll come to you the same way. All right. So also the inner circle. I'm going to be doing an extended version of 2026 in my inner circle. So consider joining. I know we have the holiday specials here going on where we, reduce the price. And so check it out. I do the weekly astrology overview there. We do extended horoscopes. I teach astrology. And the most important thing of the community is we are on a Zoom call every Sunday. And we are on a call every Thursday. And we interact. We talk about what's going on in the news. I talk about the astrology that's coming up. I give everyone an idea of what's happening. So I guide you guys. It's almost like personally guiding you on what's happening, week to week, month to month. And I think the members really do appreciate that. They've given me great positive feedback, so I appreciate that. And I do get very much more deep insights, throughout, because I do a lot of meditation. I do get a lot of information outside of the astrology. It just comes to me, because I'm tuned in, and many people are like that. And so I get information, and lately the information has been very accurate. So anyway, consider joining. I left the link down below. And the most important part of all my videos is this. We are spiritual beings in these physical suits having a human experience. We are pure energy. We are pure consciousness. And remember, every choice you make is going to be met with an experience. So decide what kind of choices you want to make. If you make no choices, that's a choice also. If you worry and have doubt and fear, that's a choice also. You're vibrating at that lower energy, and the universe or the hologram is responding to that energy. So once you move beyond that by saying, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. Nothing's going to hurt me. I have nothing to fear. I'm going to do the best I can. I realize I'm having this experience. Now you're starting to align yourself with higher source and consciousness. So always remember this, friends. Anyway, there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm going to do my best to inform, to share information that I receive with many of you. Thank you for all your support over the years. Have a great new year, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.